Every trumpet's worst nightmare. Your mute falls out. And when? During the quietest part of the entire song. Does your cork look like this? Is it all beat up because you used the crap out of your mute? Okay, first we're going to start with a Sharpie, and we're going to draw a line all the way around to mark where the cork is supposed to go. Next, you're going to grab your hairdryer, and we're going to heat it up. This is going to melt the glue so you can easily and quickly remove that cork. Make sure you grab a rag to hold the mute because it's going to get hot. Now find the seam in the cork from where it was originally installed, and you can easily peel this away. Don't throw it away. We're going to need that in just a second. Next, you're going to grab some blue painter's tape. You're going to pull off a big old piece of this, maybe like a foot long to start out with. Doesn't matter. You just need a ton. We're going to wrap this around because we're making a template. It doesn't matter if it goes over the top because we're going to cut that off later. You just want to make sure that it goes all the way around and that you build up a good thick piece of tape. You're going to use the razor now to clean off the top edge, so that way that's clean and straight. And then you're also going to clean up the bottom part of the tape. This is going to make you a perfect template. Now for this part, you can use an older razor, but I always recommend for every new project that you grab a new razor. Make it nice and perfect so that way you can draw a nice clean line when you're making your template. Just a few more refinements here. And don't worry if it's not exactly perfect because you can always touch the cork up once you've put it onto the mute. Okay, next you're going to cut a seam straight down anywhere in this tape so that way you can carefully pull it off, and then you will have your template. Voila, magic. Okay, next, you're going to grab a piece of that cork that you pulled off, and you're going to hold it up to find a piece of cork that is slightly larger than the one that you just pulled off. Then you're going to apply your template, and because it's tape, it will stick nicely in place. So that way you can use a pencil or a pen, it doesn't really matter, to draw a line for you to cut out your cork. Now, this next part, I really recommend a brand new razor because cork is very, very tough to cut with a dull razor. It will have jagged edges if you do not use a brand new, crisp, sharp razor. This is like a surgical procedure. Remember that game Operation? So just very carefully, take your time. You want this part to be as perfect as possible. There you go. Pop it out. Clean up any excess. Okay, now we're going to do a test fit on our mute. You should see a little bit of a gap right here. That's normal because we want this cork to be super tight. So next, you're going to need to grab your rawhide mallet or go grab that chimes mallet from the back of the band hall, and you need a hard, flat surface to hit this on. So now this next part is very important and has a technical term in the repair industry, and it's called beating the pith out of it. Yes, that's correct. Pith. P-I-T-H. Those are those little dark spots in the cork. And by tenderizing your cork like this, it's actually making it to where the cork is softer and more malleable, so that way you can form it to the mute without it cracking. A good thick piece of cork like this will crack if you put too much pressure on it. If your cork is already dry or old, if that's not a clean, brand new piece of cork and you go to stretch it around your mute, it will crack, and now you've wasted a perfectly good, expensive piece of cork. I often get asked why it costs so much to recork a mute. Have you ever seen the prices of cork? Okay, now that we've beaten the pith out of this cork, we're going to do one more test fit. And as you will see, the two edges nicely overlap now. And there you have it, a nice, beautiful fit. Okay, for this next step, you're going to want to make sure that the mute is perfectly round. Go ahead and take this time to get all of the dents out of it. Now I'm using a drumstick here. If you want to see more about that, go check out one of my previous videos where I show you how to take the dents out of your mute with a drumstick. A little tappy tap for a high spot right there. A little one right there. A little tap tap. A little push push. And that mute's beautiful. Okay, next you want to clean off all of that old solvent that's on there. I recommend using denatured alcohol. You just want to wipe that till it's clean and smooth. Next, you're going to run over to Home Depot or Lowe's and grab some Wellwood contact cement. Now, the secret to applying the contact cement is you want it to be as thin as possible. Thin dries quickly, and it doesn't leave a bunch of material between the two adjoining surfaces. Think of it like a sandwich. If you load it up with too many toppings, too much meat and cheese and lettuce and tomatoes, when you bite into it, everything just kind of slips out the other side. Well, the cork is the same way. If you have too much glue in between the two mating surfaces, then it will be squishy, and over time, it will just slip right off. So take your time, because the glue needs to set up and cure anyway until it's tacky. So this part probably took me the longest, was to carefully apply the glue to the mute, because it's a curved surface. Now, if you buy the little cans, it has the painter's brush in it. I buy the big jug because I go through so much of it. So I use a painter's palette to carefully spread it out and make sure it's really thin. Now you're going to wait about 5 minutes. 5 minutes later. Okay, now that your cork is tacky to the touch and the mute is as well, you're going to very carefully line it up so that way the cork is even with the top and with that line. This is the most important part because it will set the angle that this cork wraps all the way around. And if you don't stick this just right, you're going to have to carefully pull it off. I recommend heating first, clean the glue from the mute, reapply the glue to both surfaces. With contact cement, unfortunately, you only get one chance. If you have to back it off to try to correct the angle, then it will not re-stick. So you have to start the process all over again. And if you're not careful in removing it, you may tear the cork and you'll have to start the whole process again. Now, once you're happy with the fit, then what you want to do is carefully press as hard as you can all the way around. Don't deform the mute, but press and rub your fingers until you have a good, tight fit. Now you'll grab that razor that you used to cut it out, and you're going to use the middle portion of the razor to trim off all of your excess. And if you have a new razor, it cuts like a hot knife through butter. You're going to trim off that excess little flap, and I do this by just cutting straight down through. You'll cut through the top and bottom piece and then remove that portion, and it should be a nice, tight seam. We call this type of fit a butt joint because they butt up against each other. This is different than when we do sax and clarinet tenons, when they have an overlap joint. But if you did it correctly, your mute will not fall out. Happy playing! If you like this video, don't forget to give me a follow, give me a like, and share